Hello. First tonight, the man risking prosecution after admitting helping his seriously ill wife to kill herself.
Barry Sheldon lives in Suffolk. His wife died from a drugs overdose more than 20 years ago. Today, he told Look East how he helped count out the fatal dose before walking out of their home and leaving his wife alone with the drugs. He says his only regret is that he didn't stay by her side.
Barry Sheldon is 77 and accepts that at any time the police could call asking fresh questions about his wife's death in 1982. But he's adamant what he did was morally right.
And I haven't hidden anything, but it's a dreadful reflection of what can happen to perfectly ordinary people who've been put in a corner not of their own making.
It happened before he moved to Suffolk, when he lived with his wife Elizabeth in Ruislip. In 1977, she started to show signs of Huntington's disease. It's hereditary, causing dementia and physical deterioration. As a nurse, she'd cared for someone else who'd suffered terribly with the disease. Mr. Sheldon said she got hold of antidepressants, he helped count them out, and then he left her for the weekend, as they'd agreed.
When I returned home, it was to find that the house was in darkness on Sunday evening, so I knew she'd done it. Whatever she'd done it. So I raced in and I could hear moaning upstairs.
Elizabeth was taken to hospital but died several days later. Sometime before, she'd sent off for this booklet which explains how someone could end their own life, and signed a living will saying she didn't want to be revived by doctors. Today I asked Barry Sheldon if he fully realised that talking so openly about what happened might put him at risk of prosecution. Yes, he said. And is he ready if the police do come calling? Most definitely.
On a prosaic level, I have a bag packed, a little bag to take with me, ready to pick up. And I suppose I'm not a hero, nothing like a hero. I've just told the truth about it, and I'm glad I helped my wife in a frightful situation. And all I regret is I didn't have the courage to remain with her. I don't know what I'd have done. I don't think I could have smothered her. I honestly don't. But ideally, that's what I would have done if I'd had the courage to. That's my big regret. What I did was morally justified. I still believe in it. She was the love of my life.
And you still miss her?
And I still miss her more and more as I get older because of her loyalty. I still miss her, yes.
Barry Sheldon ending that report by Kevin Birch. Tonight the Metropolitan Police said, as with any case, they need to look at the facts before deciding whether to launch an investigation. Well, Joshua Rosenberg is a legal commentator. He's in London now. Looking at this, do you think that he will face prosecution?
I think he can certainly expect a visit from the police. Maybe they will invite him to go along to the police station with his lawyer rather than arrest him. Because on the face of it, what he has just admitted to is helping somebody to commit suicide. Now, the law was actually changed on this at the beginning of this month. It used to be called aiding and abetting suicide. Now it's called intentionally encouraging or assisting suicide. But it amounts to the same thing. It's a serious criminal offence, and you could get up to 14 years imprisonment. But we do know that not everybody who appears to have committed a criminal offence is going to be prosecuted. There are guidelines issued by the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the question for the police will be, how does he fall within these guidelines, and so is it likely that he will be prosecuted by the DPP?
We're expecting a statement on those guidelines later this week. Do you think it will change anything dramatically?
I don't think there'll be a dramatic change. We had temporary guidelines last September, and just going through them, the public interest factors against a prosecution are: did the victim have a clear and settled and informed wish to commit suicide? Did the victim indicate unequivocally that she wanted to kill herself? Did she ask for help? Did she suffer from a terminal illness? Was the suspect motivated by compassion? Was the victim a spouse of the suspect? A lot of factors there, and I must say Mr. Sheldon does seem to tick those boxes, so that does suggest it's unlikely that he'll be prosecuted if his story stands up under police questioning.
Of course, the big problem with this is that somebody could be telling untruths and actually it wasn't an assisted suicide, it might even have been a murder.
Well, that's right, and we saw, of course, last week that Ray Gosling was arrested for murder, on suspicion of murder. He hasn't been charged, but the police questioned him. Now, we heard Mr. Sheldon saying that he didn't smother his wife. He might have wanted to, but he didn't smother his wife. So the police will be wanting to test his story to see whether it crosses the line into an allegation of murder or comes within assisted suicide, and then it'll be a matter for the prosecution service. And we also know that a woman who admitted helping her daughter to kill herself and admitted assisted suicide was given just about the lowest possible sentence, a conditional discharge. So
Joshua,
it's not too likely that he'll face a serious prison sentence even if he's prosecuted.
Joshua Rosenberg, thank you very much indeed. And of course, there is no evidence here that anything but the truth has been told by Mr. Sheldon. And I'm sure many of you have been affected by what we've been talking about tonight. You can get in touch with us in the usual way.
It's been another testing day for those travelling by car and by air. Snow closed Luton Airport this morning while motorists face long delays on the M1 and other roads. More on that in a moment. But first, flooding. That's caused problems too. Gareth George is near Basildon in Essex now. Gareth.
Yes, Amelia, this is the very aptly named Watery Lane. In places, the flood water here is about 2 feet deep. There are road closed signs at either end of the lane here, but that hasn't stopped a steady stream of motorists trying to get through. And some tried to get through early this morning, but they got stuck and had to be rescued by firefighters in a boat.
The drivers of these vehicles thought they'd make it through, but they ended up stranded in this morning's floods. In the distance, another abandoned car. Firefighters rescued some drivers in a boat. Only the very brave were still willing to risk it. For the family in this house, the water was far too close for comfort.
It was like a big brown wave just coming down towards the side of the bungalow. Obviously got to the bottom foot of the bungalow. Yeah, and I could see cars stranded in the lane, so I phoned 999.
How worried were you?
The kids made me more worried because they thought they were going to drown.
Watery Lane floods so often, one local councillor said she thought plans to build houses nearby should be shelved.
The drainage in the area cannot take any more houses, let alone 1,000.
Just up the road in Rettendon, they were handing out sandbags. Houses here were dangerously close to flooding too.
In Battlesbridge, just the other side of the river, they've dug a big ditch to contain the water. That's overflowed and covering half the road up as well now. As in the name of the group, it's wet, wet, wet.
The standing water made roads treacherous, and on the River Crouch at Battlesbridge, a torrent poured through the sluice gates.
Meanwhile, it was heavy snow that caused disruption in parts of Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire. Some drivers faced 3-hour delays getting to work, and Luton Airport was closed for most of the morning. This report from Joel Mapp.
This morning, the white skies above Luton were